my movie-loving dudes, I'm KillJoy Jake, and today we're doing a little review of Across the Spider-Verse. Oh my god, I can't wait to talk about this movie. Let's just get into it already.
Well, sometimes that is better.
Before we really get into the review, though, I want to talk about some of the people behind the scenes who did an excellent job with this film. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse was directed by Joaquim Dos Santos, Kemp Powers, and Justin K. Thompson. The screenplay once again comes from Phil Lord and Chris Miller, who did an excellent job with the first movie, as well as various other projects, including 21 Jump Street, which cures anti-Semitism apparently, and also Clone High, a very underrated series from the early thousands. The film features a star-studded cast, including Shameik Moore as Miles Morales, Haley Stenfield as Gwen Stacy or Spider-Woman, Brian Tyree Henry as Jefferson Morales, Luna Lauren Velez as Rio Morales, Jake Johnson as Peter B. Parker, Jason Schwartzman as Dr. Jonathan Unn or The Spot, Issa Rae as Jessica Drew, Karan Soni as Indian Spider-Man, Daniel Kaluuya as Hobart Hobie Brown or Spider-Punk, and Oscar Isaac as Miguel O'Hara or Spider-Man 2099. Obviously, there are a lot more characters than that, voiced by Jack Quaid, Andy Samberg, Mahershala Ali, etc. But like, do you really want to watch another video where a guy just reads you names that voice characters in a movie you love? No, let's get into the review. Doing a little non-spoiler review because this is one you don't want to get spoiled at all. I absolutely loved Across the Spider-Verse. I didn't think it was possible to top that original masterpiece that is Into the Spider-Verse, but my god, they might have done it with this one. Really, my only complaint is I think the opening's a little clunky, but even then, that's purposeful because of where the story goes. I don't really see another way they could have done it. I hate when you get superhero sequels that are like, this is just another story with the same character. This builds on top of what we started in the original film, making it feel like one long story opposed to just a sequel to Into the Spider-Verse. We're aptly making this a trilogy that is going to tell one big story about the Spider-Verse, and that's awesome. Instead of just leaving that in the last movie and focusing on a new villain like every superhero sequel does pretty much, this one is trying to tell a much bigger story than what we initially thought in the first film. And that's not all it has going for it. Aside from the excellent voice cast that adds something to literally every single scene, if it's a new character or if it's a character development we just didn't know about and completely blew my mind, there's something to offer in every single sequence of this film that makes it something truly special. The animation is gorgeous, but the story is also good too. This film absolutely requires more than one viewing without a doubt. I need to see it again after just seeing it last night, and it has one of the best third acts I've ever seen in an animated film just in general, which if I told you even one detail about it, I'd be spoiling something. If you want to see this movie and you have yet to see it, don't go on Twitter, don't go on Facebook, don't go on Instagram. Just go see this movie when you get out of work. That's my best advice. What else could I possibly say about this movie without spoiling it? So moving forward, we're getting into spoilers. If you have not seen this movie, please, for the love of God, do not watch the rest of this video. Go see this first and then come back. Spoilers ahead! The sparkle fingers are warning you not to go any further into this video or I will find you. Anyways, getting into the plot of this a little bit, we start off initially with an entire sequence with Gwen Stacy. Now, I really only have two tiny issues with this movie. We have an opening scene that focuses on a character who's getting her own side movie in the future, and well, most times you see this done, it's only done as kind of this big advertisement for a future movie that's coming out, and I just feel a little fatigue on that. Every superhero movie kind of does that, and this movie, I have to admit, is a bit of an exception to that. Because this opening scene is so powerful to the plot of the film I am watching, with most movies though, that's not really the case. Don't put ads for future movies in your movie that I'm watching right now. Like, I'll check that out when we get to it. I want to watch this movie now. And unfortunately, this movie hits on two of my pet peeves with superhero movies where they over-explain everything with dialogue. Miles Morales tells the story of how he got bitten by a spider 4 times throughout the runtime of this film. 4 fucking times, dude. I don't give too many positives to the new Spider-Man movies with Tom Holland, but the one thing I will give them is they haven't gone over the backstory of Spider-Man like 100 times. You know, something we all know. Radioactive spider bites some guy and he gets superpowers. Like, everyone knows that. I get that kids are going to see this movie and all that, but like, this was egregious, dude. Like, you did not have to go over that 4 times with me. Now, while this movie does hit on 2 of my big pet peeves with superhero movies, the rest of it is flawless. The opening sequence features a fight fight scene with this alternate universe version of the Vulture, who's from like this Italian Renaissance Leonardo da Vinci style universe. So like his animation is all super different. It looks like writings out of like Da Vinci's journals and all that bullshit. The opening scene gets really crazy though when Gwen Stacy reveals her identity to her dad though, and I'm just like, oh shit. That comes back later in a really nice way too. Excellent writing altogether with this opening sequence though, besides the whole going over the backstory a million times. We then see Miles Morales deal with the repercussions of blowing up the reactor from the last movie because one of the scientists that was working on it became the Spot. Now what's really interesting about the Spot is that he's kind of like this D-list Spider-Man villain that's mostly a joke, and they even kind of make fun of that in a bit of meta humor here, which I really appreciated. But they turned the Spot into something way bigger with this movie, and he might not be featured in like a lot of the film, but when he's on screen, he fucking kills it, man. Jason Schwartzman did an excellent job voicing this character. It was consistently funny while also being a little compelling. In the past couple of years, dot-themed superheroes or supervillains are really shining, including Polka Dot Man and Spot here. They might have been a joke in the past, but they're to be feared nowadays. My god, what a turnaround for both of those characters. I would argue that Spot is already a better villain than Kingpin, in my opinion. It has more to do with the multiverse. I thought that this was an absolutely excellent choice for a villain in one of these movies, and kind of the big bad of, well, the entire story overall, really. Gwen reluctantly goes to visit Miles because they have a crush on each other, if that wasn't made wildly apparent by all of the drawings in Miles's notebook. This is where the movie really takes off, in my opinion, when we find out that Spot is hopping universes to get more power from different reactors, and he's in Mumbattan, if I'm pronouncing this right, which is a mixture of Mumbai and Manhattan, if you didn't figure that out. Now, I loved this sequence for many reasons. If it was the gorgeous animation or the two characters we get introduced to here, including Hobby, voiced by Daniel Kaluuya, who does a great job, but I gotta admit, this movie moves so fast it didn't exactly lend itself to the Cockney accent. I probably missed about 50% of Hobby's lines, even though I'm sure they were hilarious. But Karan Soni gives an absolutely incredible performance as our Indian version of Spider-Man, who goes over his backstory at like this lightning fast pace. In fact, it might have been a little too fast. This is one of those movies where there's just so much to look at and appreciate, you kind of have to watch it multiple times, which could be to its detriment, but at the same time, it gives it a lot of rewatchability. Like, you can follow the story, it's nothing too like crazy or out there. If you're familiar with Spider-Man or the multiverse, you can enjoy this movie, but at the same time, it lends itself to this amazing amount of rewatchability because like, it's gorgeous to look at. There's so many background details. There's so many little shots where you're like, oh shit, I missed that the first time. But getting back to the story at hand here, I loved this sequence for many reasons. We introduced the idea of canon events, which is typically something you see in like a time travel themed movie, but to see that in a multiversal focused movie was pretty cool. The idea behind that is you don't want to change a canon event because then it would lead to uncertainty in the future, which is something that Miguel's character is very focused on and very worried about moving into the future, and hopefully the Spider-Verse won't all crumble as he says it might. Miles, because he has a good heart, has to interrupt this canon event though, something that he's unaware of at the time too. Gwen, what the fuck? And he ends up saving the police captain, who is the father of Indian Spider-Man's girlfriend. If you haven't seen the movie, you're probably super confused right now by all of the bullshit I've been spewing for the past like 20 minutes or so. But then after Gwen and the crew takes Miles over to the Spider-Verse building, which is in 2099 in the future dimension, this is where us Spider-Man fans really start to eat a little bit because, oh my god, there's like 100 references and different versions of Spider-Man floating in the background of this entire sequence. It's insane. We even get a live-action Childish Gambino, which, man, made me really happy. Jake Johnson's Peter B. Parker re-enters the movie at this point too. I think he's a big standout from the first one, so it's cool to see him in more of a limited role in this film, but he's still present. This is where Miguel kind of turns into an antagonist. Like, you want to root for him a little bit. Like, I don't necessarily think he's like in the wrong, kind of like Thanos. Thanos had good intentions, he was just going about it the wrong way. Like, killing half of life in the universe is not a good thing. Miguel isn't as evil of an antagonist, but he definitely is that. He wants to keep the canon events going because he's tried to alter them in the past, but it only resulted in him, well, losing his family again, which is incredibly sad and makes him ultra sympathetic, which in my opinion are the best villains. The best villains, in my opinion, are the ones who think they're the good guys. Miguel basically tells Miles that a canon event is about to happen in his universe because his father's going to die, and he's like, yeah, you know, I'm actually gonna try to stop that. F you, Miguel. Miguel tries to stop him by encasing him in that like weird spider web looking trap thing that's all yellow. I like that. It's pretty cool. But his hobby told him earlier he's got to use the palms of his hands, you know, where the power of the sun usually lies, to then break out of that, and that's basically where the best sequence of the entire movie happens, which you've probably seen in the trailer already if you haven't seen the movie and you're still watching this video. I know you're doing it. I see you out there. I'm about to ruin the twist, so if you're still watching this and you haven't seen the movie, you're just fucking yourself, basically. Miles escapes in one of the most beautifully animated sequences I've ever seen in a film. Studio Ghibli, eat your heart out. This sequence is amazing for so many reasons, like epic fight sequences, so many different Spider-Men, and then you get the reveal that Miles Morales himself is an anomaly. He was bitten by a spider that came from another dimension. Wasn't supposed to happen. This is something I've just never even thought about regarding that first movie. It's like, wow. The reveals don't stop there though, and I'm kind of fast tracking this a little bit, but essentially Miles goes back to the dimension that he thinks is his own, but really he's in the dimension where the spider that bit him came from. When he goes to this universe, he finds out that the alternate version of himself is the Prowler, unlike his uncle. I gotta admit, that's one of the coolest reveals I've ever seen in a movie ever. Like, what a way to end this for one of the coolest cliffhangers ever. I know I already made this joke, but Vin Diesel, eat your heart out, man. Fast X was a fucking disaster, dude. This movie is already 140 minutes, and I could have used another 140 minutes after that. That's why I'm so excited for Beyond the Spider-Verse. But on top of that absolutely incredible twist, we also get Gwen Stacy getting banned from the Spider Society. But that's when she decides, you know what? Fuck all those guys. They don't even know if Canon Events are going to ruin the Spider-Verse or not. So she gets the team back together from the first movie, including Spider-Ham and Spider-Noir, two characters I really missed in this film, together right at the end for this badass conclusion about them going to find Miles in the reality where he really is. Now that is one of the best cliffhangers in Universal history, even though this movie wasn't made by Universal. All around, this was an incredible movie. The animation was gorgeous. The storytelling was some of the best I've seen in a superhero film in a long time. The characters, yes, abundant, are all very well written. None of them felt like, okay, this is just a character to be there, you know, whatever. Everybody shines in this, and that's due to the excellent writing and the incredible voice cast here. I've just seen so many superhero movies in the past 5 years that just had me rolling my eyes, and to have two in a row now, Guardians of the Galaxy and this, just absolutely kick ass, has me so excited about superhero movies again. Something I genuinely haven't felt since like Endgame. This movie absolutely kicked ass. I want to see more animated stuff from Sony and less live action, because my god, what the fuck was Morbius? But hopefully they can stick the landing in this third movie, which will most likely be the conclusion to this story. Until we get that though, I'm giving this movie a 9.5 out of 10. Besides some obnoxious backstory talk, the rest of this movie is absolutely perfection. I wouldn't change a thing besides that. I absolutely loved this film, but what did you think about it? Leave me something about it in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching my Across the Spider-Verse review. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more content on, well, horror movies, I guess, in the future. I also talk about other stuff too, like other things I'm interested in, including this. Please consider supporting me on Patreon as well if you want to see this channel grow, and as always, don't forget to kill it out there, y'all.